Entrepreneurship, the feasibility analysis. What is the outline of a feasibility analysis? Well, it basically contains several basic points. First, a discussion of the business idea. Next, a discussion of the product or service. Then, the industry trends and structure, the market, what type of non-monetary resources will be needed to start the business, startup costs in order to start the business, and then some financial projections. The feasibility report can be quite a large document. The textbook outlines a fairly complex uh, outline of what the feasibility report might contain. Obviously, there are different reasons for doing feasibility reports. Usually, if you're looking at it from an entrepreneur's standpoint, you're looking at doing it for yourself. Or it could be that you could hire somebody to do a feasibility report for you to help you make the decision. So when do you do a feasibility report? Well, first of all, it's important to identify what your needs are and what your talents are as an entrepreneur. Many people, just by writing the report, helps them clarify their thoughts and think through things better. Other people don't need to write the report, but rather just think about and make decisions about the issues involved in the report. And this brings us to, what does the feasibility report actually try to accomplish? And basically, there are two main questions that it tries to accomplish. Really, when it gets down to it, the feasibility process tries to answer two major questions. One, is there a large enough market to make the project possible? And two, is the project technically possible? On number two, you can break that down into three different questions. Is the project possible technologically? Is it possible in terms of the financial capability that you have? And in terms of other resources that you might need to have, such as knowledge or experience or that sort of thing. The feasibility process starts with an idea. The idea of what the product will be, what the company will be. Then you move on to market analysis, where you discuss industry, market potential, and competition. Then resource requirements, experience, knowledge, startup costs, operating costs, calculate break even. Then a time for a decision. If the decision is, yes, this seems feasible, then it's time to go ahead and then start beginning to flesh out more aspects of your business plan. If the answer is no, it's not feasible, well, then you may want to just scrap the idea. Or, on the other hand, if it's not feasible in its current state, you may want to reevaluate it and change the idea in some way in order to make it feasible. The idea. What is your product? What need does it fill? all products fill a need. How does your product fill that need? Who are the customers that will have that need and would want to purchase your product? What are your personal objectives in starting this business? What do you want to get out of it? Step number 2, from the idea to market analysis. Market analysis has several questions that need to be answered and generally requires research. First of all, what industry is the proposed venture in? And what are the industry trends and characteristics? What's going on within that industry? Next, what market are you going to serve? Are you going to serve the entire world? Or are you going to serve a specified geographic region? Are you going to serve a certain type of client, a certain age? What is the market that you're going to be serving? And what is the market potential within that market? In other words, how big is that market in terms of dollars or products sold? And that brings us to our next question. How many customers are in that market? Which inevitably leads us to the next question. How many competitors are in that market? Obviously, you want a market that's large enough that there will be ample number of customers to purchase your product. If there are a lot of competitors, this could be a red flag in that you probably don't want to start up in a market where there's more competitors and few customers. On the other hand, just because there are no competitors does not mean that it's good. There might not be competitors because there might not be enough of a market there. There might not be enough consumers there to really make it a viable business. Step 3, from market analysis to resource requirements. There are many different resources that are needed to start a business. Some of the most prevalent include experience and knowledge. You need to have some sort of experience or knowledge in some aspect of the business. Or you need to be able to learn and know where to find that information. Startup costs requirement. How much is it going to cost to start the business? Do you have that amount of money? What are the fixed and variable operational costs? On an ongoing basis, your business will have fixed costs and variable costs. Variable costs will vary with how much product you sell. Fixed costs are the same no matter how much product you sell. By knowing the fixed costs and the variable costs and the price that you are going to charge, you can do a break-even analysis. The break-even analysis tells you how much you will have to sell just to break even. Not make a profit, but just break even. Once you've calculated break even, this brings us to the first major decision. Is this something that will work? Do you have have the necessary experience and knowledge to make this work? Can you get the startup funds necessary? And what level does the project break even? Does that level seem realistic? If the answer to these questions is yes, well then it's time to go ahead and start the next step. Look to fleshing out a larger business plan, more comprehensive plan of action. If the answer is no, well then you might want to just scrap the idea and forget about it. Or, if the answer is no, there might be a way to reevaluate it. And after reevaluating it, you might find that you can go and change the idea in some way, which might make it a viable project. Much of the feasibility process requires research. What is going on within the industry? What are market trends within the industry? Is the industry growing? Is it shrinking? What kind of structural aspects are there within the industry? What is the market potential? Is it large? Is it small? Is it growing? Is it shrinking? How many competitors exist? Are they long-time competitors? Are they new competitors? Are there a lot of people getting into the market or out of the market? Do you have the resources available to start the venture? And what is the break-even analysis? Does it seem realistic? So as a recap, what is the purpose of a feasibility report? Well, the feasibility report is basically a report just for the entrepreneur, unless it is used to try to obtain some seed financing, in which case it could be used as a sales document. But usually it's a matter of the entrepreneur trying to decide whether a project is feasible or not. If a project is feasible, does that mean that it's going to be a success? Well, no, not necessarily. It just means that there is a good likelihood of success. Whereas if a project is deemed non-feasible, there's really not very much likelihood of success. Wise entrepreneurs don't just risk their money wildly, but rather they try to make rationed, reasoned bets, and the feasibility analysis is just the beginning of doing just that. So basically, it answers two questions. Is there a large enough market to make my product work and make this business work? And do I have the necessary resources in order to start this business? If it appears that both are the case, then the next step is to think a little harder about the business planning process and identify what is needed to build the business and start the business, and what parts of the business plan can be worked on as the business is getting up and going. Well, in short, that's the feasibility process. Um, it's a process that can seem rather big and intimidating, but for the most part, it's just trying to answer a couple of reasonable questions. And all entrepreneurs want to make sure that what they're going into is something that has a good chance of survival.